In this video, I demonstrate how you can use Excel table to sort, filter, and format data. So an Excel table is a function that is available within Excel, but it has to be activated in order for it to work. So you actually have to convert your data set into a table, right? And this enables you to efficiently manage and analyze the sets of information in Excel. And of course, the assumption is that the data will be sorted according to a regular spreadsheet, in which case you've got some columns and some rows, as you can see right here. And of course, in order for you to convert this data set into an Excel table, you have to make sure that your point is somewhere within the data itself, so that the table can actually recognize the data range itself. So all we have to do then is we click on Insert Table, right? And then we go ahead and say OK. And now we can see that the table is actually being created. And in some cases, you can actually give it a name, a table name if you want it, because that will also give you some additional functionality, right? So once you've done this, you can see you've got some list arrows, which means that you're now ready to, for example, if you wanted to sort the data, we can go to this list arrow here, and then we can choose whether we want to sort by this particular column A to Z or Z to A. It does not really matter which method we actually want to use. So for example, A to Z, you can see automatically this column is actually been sorted and everything is actually been rearranged. And then maybe we may say we want to also include the motion picture rating, A to Z, right? So here it removes the previous sort that we had, and it's now prioritizing this particular column, right? So again, we can undo. Now there are also times when we may actually want to use multiple sorts, right? So we can click on this and we can go to sort by color. When you do that, you can see it says custom sort. So we can really have a much more customized way of actually sorting our data, because it opens up a dialog box that enables us to select multiple sort keys. For example, we want to sort by, let's say, by a motion picture rating first, and want to sort by the values and A to Z. And then we can actually add another level, for example, and maybe we say movie title, and I want to cell values and A to Z. And you go ahead and say, OK. Now you can see both of them are actually showing the value collectively, right? So again, there's another feature that's actually available. And of course, there are times when we can we can even sort with more than two sort keys, right? So that does not really matter which method we actually use. But again, while we're here, we can also do things like we want to filter by, let's say, for example, we want to filter by items that contains, let's be creative here, that contains the, right? And we just go ahead and say, OK. You can see all of a sudden only movie titles with the way they are actually listed there. Now, if I go here with the filter, it gives you the option to actually clear the filter anytime you want. So for example, you say, OK, I don't want that anymore, I can still go back. But you see the sort remains there. We can go to text filter, thinking, think something contains, does not contain, right? Remember last time we said contains the, let's say does not contain the. Okay, and all of a sudden everything else that does not have the in them are actually being listed right there, right? Isn't that cool? right? So you can clear that as well, and you can be as creative as you want. Text filters, and let's say begins with, right? Begins with, let's say begins with L, okay? And only those movie titles that begins with the letter L. We can even say that ends with, right? So again, we can clear this, and we can go ahead and let's say ends with. We can be creative here. Ends with E, right? Only movies that ends with letter E, or it could be ends with, if it was a complete word, we could also use that. Or we can say E, or ends with maybe S. Go ahead and OK. And only those movies that ends with the letter S, right? So it gives us a lot of functionality depending on what we actually want to do, right? So while we're here, we can also use the other filter down here where, for example, by default it's saying selecting all, but we can actually deselect all so that we can choose the ones that we want. Okay, right. So you can actually select the rows that you really want, and of course they will actually show up right there. That's a lot of functionality using the table, and that's also being made possible because the Excel table has actually been activated, and because of that, it gives us a lot of advantages in terms of what we want to do, right? What else did I want to do here? Right, let's say we wanted to use the release date, right? Okay. Release date again gives us the same functionality. We can do custom sort, we can sort individually, or we can also filter by date, right? So you can see here there's even more functionality, or maybe last month or this month, or we can deselect everything and then we can choose the ones that we actually want, right? We are actually able to do that. That's 2003 to 2006 only, okay? And that's all we actually have right there, right? So again, we can always go back and remove the filter, and of course we can choose anything else. We can be as creative as we want. Let's say, for example, I wanted to use the date filter here. We'll say last quarter, right? And or last year to date. All right, so this is not picking anything at all, right? So that's actually the beauty of this, because you're actually able to find something that is actually meaningful, and if it does not make sense, it does not kind of agree with whatever data you have in there, obviously you end up with nothing, right? Okay, but it's so specific. There's much more functionality, especially with the date, right? Because it could be, the assumption is that it's actually current dates that we're actually using, whereas we can see the date, the dates are kind of dated in a way, right? They happened way back. So because of that, that limits the kind of functionality that we would actually need. But otherwise, here the easiest would be to deselect and select the years that you want, right? And then select only those ones in addition to other functionality. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. I hope you found this video a little bit interesting in that it enables you to have a lot of activity that you can actually do to manipulate the data in a variety of ways, depending on the kind of questions you will be asking yourself, as to what type of data you actually want to extract from, from the existing data. Of course, this data set is very small, but in situations where you've got, let's say, 1,000 rows in your data set, you can see how much value this can actually bring. to your analysis. That's all I have for you. Thanks so much for watching. And again, like the video, share the video, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.